All right, you guys, I am sharing the link right now. About to go ahead and get it popping. This is day 12 of the 30-day surplus funds challenge. Pinning that in the comment section right now. If you guys, all right, you guys, I am sharing the link right now. Go ahead and check that out. Let me go ahead and share this so we can get some more users on the call. Hey, what's up, John? How you doing, John? You can hear me?
Now I can.
Okay. How you doing, man?
Good, good. Congrats on the porch.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Mhm.
Just got it, man. It's riding real smooth. I like it.
That's awesome.
Okay, let's see. We got some more. We got Stanley, Matthew is. What's up, Stanley?
Eric, you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, man? How's it going?
Going good.
Good. You made some calls today?
No, I did all my research. I did all my business, everything set up today. I got my business phone, set everything up with the bank and everything. That's what I did today. So
Okay.
everything, got my website, everything done. So when I'm ready to present myself, I'm professional.
Professional, exactly. Yeah. Hey, at least you're taking action. Although you may not be making phone calls right now, you're getting everything else in line. And
I
when
have
you
my list ready. So like what I usually do on Mondays, I don't usually make calls on Mondays. So I usually like go through all the counties and just look at the list and then just write them down.
okay,
And use as lead access to go through and just find the numbers and do my research.
there you go. Nice. You find some leads that you want to attack, but that's good. You're getting your business bank account set up. You got your company. Are you working on your website?
Everything done already. My website done.
Nice.
The banking account done. Got my business phone number. So
Mhm.
I've done the Bradstreet. So I pretty much just did everything about business today.
Good, good. Business day. I like that. I like that. We got Matthew in the house. We got Ismail. Sorry if I say your name wrong. Cassandra, Joey. Okay.
Hey Eric.
What's up, Matthew?
Hey, so I just got done editing that agreement form. I just want to read off the ending part. I just want to see what you think about it.
Yeah, before we get into that, let's go ahead and just give the viewers a little bit information on it so then when they hear it, it can make sense to them. So
Okay.
let's go ahead and discuss that.
All right. Where do you want me to start?
We can just say how your deal's been going, and then what we've been doing on the back end to move forward with the claim. Talk about, the initial call, how you did your research, what happened when you got a hold of her, things like that.
Okay, cool. So yesterday before you went over in regards to how to look up at the auction list, I went on this website called Bid for Assets, and it's basically the same aspect of what Florida does, but it does it in a couple different states. Um, I got a hold of a parcel number that I thought that may be lucrative, right? I did the research and I seen that that person was owed roughly around 80,000. And I did the skip tracing and trying to get a hold of the person. Honestly, I called at least 20 numbers and did the Facebook. I was doing how um, investigator James does it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, I almost gave up. I got to the last phone number and the lady answered.
Okay, wait a second. Before we move any further, do you guys hear what he said? He's doing everything. He's making calls. He's doing further research. He's doing everything. And he almost gave up. But the last number picked up, and this was a lady that agreed. And this is what I've been talking about. This is what the whole 30-day challenge is for. Do not give up. Keep pushing because the next call could be somebody that's ready to go. It's a part of this game. You're going to get phone numbers that are disconnected. You're gonna get individuals who may not want to work with you. You have to keep going. You can't get discouraged. All right, go
Yeah.
back. I just said I love that, man. I love hearing that. I love it.
Yeah, because I was basically looking for her husband, and then once I started to get a hold of her, the last number that I was like, man, this number is gonna be disconnected. And luckily, first she didn't answer, and then I sent a text message like, "Hey, is this so and so?" And then she ended up replying, and then we ended up talking for about 20
Oh my gosh. See, this is just beautiful. You're doing all the steps necessary. You're literally following it to the T, and boom, you got an agreement. That's perfect.
Yeah,
So he didn't give up. He made the last call. He didn't get an answer on the voicemail, but he sent a text message. Hello, is this? Boom, their first name. You got the response. You hit her up. How to go from there? Sorry to keep cutting you
uh,
off. Getting me
no,
hyped.
it's
You're getting
no,
me.
that's fine. It was definitely exciting. I'm not gonna lie to you, but very nervous on my end. In
Okay.
fact, I try to like calm my voice so that way I'm not trying to be all choppy with the conversation. Um, I got a hold of her once I was able to get her on the phone. I was explaining to her exactly what surplus funds is and how she's entitled to this money. And then after I did my whole spiel, she went into the background in regards to the property, and she was explaining to me that her husband passed away, and that she just moved out of state, and and so
Go ahead. Unmute yourself now.
she was explaining me the whole situation, letting me know that it sounds like a big headache to her, and that she was really kind of to the point where, like how you mentioned in most of your videos, like, I don't want to deal with this, or I don't know what's going on. These people just basically sounding like how you say that most of them will sound. Um, I sent over the information that I got from like the screenshots I took from like the auction. And then I took a screenshot from the county matching up the APN parcel number. So that way I could show her like, hey, this parcel number and then the auction parcel number are matching up. And
Mhm.
then the difference amount from what's owed that was owed to the county and how much for the surplus. And I sent that over in an email yesterday, and I told her, look, just look it over, and there's no rush. I just oh sorry, I told her there's no rush. However, let me make an appointment with you today for 9, and she's in Texas. So I called her this morning. She didn't answer. I was like, oh man, I thought she was gonna be like a no show, right? So I was gonna just call her in another hour, and she ended up replying to me. She was telling me that everything sounded legitimate and that it sounds fair. And so then I sent over the agreement, and then I over the phone I went over it step line through line, and then
Nice.
yeah, and then that's where I was contacting you because I started to do the research in regards to the legal fees and all that, and that's where that comes to where I started.
Where we are, yeah. So on this one, guys, boom, we done went over everything he just did. That's perfect. Literally in the course is telling you this, and on the 30-day challenge, we've been going over this. Now he's in a situation where the state, Washington, they cap you for the third party at 5%. So the legal fees, it does require an attorney. The legal fees from the attorney most likely is going to outweigh that 5%. So right now we're just rewording the agreement form so that the 5% is fully his, and whatever legal fees associated from the attorney, that will be their, charge as well. The attorney will not be paid upfront. They're operating on contingency as well. All we're doing is just rewording a certain section in our agreement form with the client so that he can keep his 5%, and the attorney who completes this will get paid out as well. Because on this case, it is the husband passed away and didn't leave a will, didn't leave a trust. So it is going to require some sort of, estate documentation. The county can't just issue out payment strictly because she's married to the person who was on that title. Her name isn't on the title, although she is his wife, I believe that, the county will look at it like, hey, we don't know if he has any children. We don't know if he has any living parents. We don't know if he has any brothers or sisters, any other heirs that possibly could come about. So I recommended Matthew to get an attorney to handle this case, because if you try to do it all on your own and something complex like that, it's going to prolong the process. And then eventually you'll most likely need an attorney anyway. So we're going to reword the agreement so that he can keep his 5%, and then the attorney can get paid as well.
Yeah. So, like you said, in the agreement form on the course in section 3.3, it says local attorney.
Mhm.
We require and engage a local attorney. The attorney will be responsible for the recovery of your claim and distributing your portion to you. The attorney fees associated with this claim will be separated from MDR Recovery LLC, which is my business, success fee. There will be no upfront cost to, and then I typed in the client's name, Tamara Hall, and I left it at that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I like it, Will. What do you think about that literature right there that we got on there?
That sounded good. I would probably want to specify in that agreement. I would probably just want to add to make it explicit that the claimant is going to be responsible for the legal fees separately. I'm happy, Matthew, if you want to send that over, I can take a look and make a suggestion about the specific language, something along those lines.
Okay, great.
I think you've covered it, but I think in matters where you're talking about how people are getting paid, it's a lot easier beforehand to be okay with everything's going to be hunky-dory at the end. And when the money comes in, then it gets a little bit more contentious about who's getting their hands on what. It's good to work it out beforehand.
Yeah,
Okay,
nice.
great.
Have everything in black and white, explicit, like you said.
Okay, great. I will get your email on your little blooper thing right here.
Blooper thing, the thing that pops up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Will, if you could just put your email in the comments, or Matthew, I can just CC Will on that and we can go ahead and move forward.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Congratulations. It's a great story and great job. Good on you.
Yeah, well, that's a great story. I mean, he's just hearing this, it's like, wow, this is what the challenge is for. And he's following, all the steps. He's following everything. Okay, so that's good. All right. We're gonna go ahead and get a second. Let me mute everybody real quick. We're gonna go ahead and get into little motivational tip. So when you're doing this business, most likely you guys have a 9-to-5 job, or whatever time you go to work. It might be 7 to 3, 9 to 5, or just work in general. You're doing something outside of your work. So you're doing more, and essentially you're gonna get tired. Okay. We only have 24 hours in a day to commit 8 to 9 hours at work for your employer, and then to work on your side business. If you want to remain healthy, to work out. You might have relationships, you want entertainment as well, leisure time, just to fit that in your schedule. You're going to burn out. There's going to be times where you're tired. Like, I'll be honest, guys, I get tired sometimes, but what keeps me motivated is just realizing that being tired is a privilege, because doing more means that you respect yourself to the point where you want to achieve your goals. There's people who are stagnant in life, who don't achieve any of their goals. And honestly, I think it's simply because they don't view themselves in a way that they can achieve greatness. When you know that you have greatness in you, you're going to respect yourself enough to do what's necessary. So if you're tired, if you're feeling exhausted, maybe you've been making these calls and you haven't been getting anybody on the phone and you just want to give up, stick with the process, trust the business, but ultimately respect yourself. And just the fact that you're doing more is going to put you 20, 30% ahead of everybody else, because there's a lot of people who are complacent and they're comfortable with just working for somebody else. But then there's other individuals like you guys who are coming on this call to learn how to do business, be an entrepreneur, start your own business, help other people. just keep pushing, stay after it, and you can do it. So, the recipe to get to financial freedom when you don't have wealth and you're coming from, it's just you on this journey. You have to get a job. I always say this, you have to get a job because that's going to cover your expenses and you're not going to be starving to achieve greatness. You have to do more. So now you guys are picking up, a new stream of income through asset recovery, and then you have to invest the rest. You invest the rest. That's how you start building, wealth, and then that's how you become financially free. So it starts now with doing more. You might be exhausted, you might be tired now, but trust me, the fruits of your labor will be worth it. Okay, today's call, it actually won't be long. I'm glad that Matthew was able to provide his story, and then Will was able to, give us some knowledge on certain literature on documents. What we're going to talk about is sending documents today. So I've been receiving a lot of emails about individuals saying that they're confused. They don't know about the documents. They don't know if they should send the agreement first, wait to get everything back, and then send further documents. Or maybe you want to send all the documents. We're going to go over that today. Before we get into that, does anybody have any questions? No questions. Okay, perfect. All right. So there's different ways when it comes to sending your documents, and it all depends on the phone call. So if you're on the phone with somebody and it's a home run deal, this means that, they listen to your whole spiel and they're ready to go. They're like, yes, it sounds good. Maybe you spent 20 to 30 minutes explaining everything to them. It fully makes sense. They want to move forward with you. They trust you. They understand you don't charge any upfront fees. Go ahead and send all the documents. Okay, you're going to send the agreement form. You're going to send over, if you need an assignment of interest, send that over. That's in the course. You're going to get your limited power of attorney, and you're going to have the response funds payable document. And then you want to do your due diligence, see how the county accepts claims, and find that county's claim form. If you do not see the county's claim form online, you can ask them via phone call, email, fax. You can request this document. If they don't have it and they say, you need to get an attorney to get this affidavit, then boom, now okay, I need to get an attorney. So then you get an attorney. But on home run deals, send all the forms, okay? And the next time would be if you get somebody on the phone and they just want a little bit more information. So somebody that's looking for further information, but you feel like that phone call went, good enough to at least move forward, send over the agreement form and tell them you're going to take a deeper dive into their case. You want to do a little bit more due diligence and make sure that everything is lined up correctly to submit a claim. Go ahead and send over that agreement form. You send that over, you'll send over proof that they're actually owed this money. You'll send over any state statutes that you need to. If you're using an attorney, you want to send over their contact information as well, your website, anything to have, full transparency and provide that you're a legitimate source. Now, the next one is going to be if the case absolutely requires an attorney. So if you're dealing in a state where an attorney is required, all you need to do is send off your agreement form with that individual in your company. Once you get that, your attorney will send a form to you and then a form to the client as well. They'll sign that. And then most of the time your attorney can pretty much handle almost everything else for you. Of course, we want to make their job as easy as possible by getting all the, documents and due diligence done. But if you're using an attorney, most of the time, just go ahead and get the agreement form. Once you have that ready to go, the attorney will be in contact with you, and then they'll send over the form, and then you can get the deal. Does anybody have any questions with that? I know I was long-winded and just went hard on that, but if anybody has any questions on that, let me know. Kenny on YouTube said, is California one of those states? Are you talking about a state that requires an attorney, or what are you talking about, Kenny? Morgan said, thank you for covering the documents. Yeah, no problem. Kenny said, thanks for the encouragement. Oh, does California require an attorney? No, they do not. But you have to see if the case will need an attorney. You know, if you're dealing with a deceased individual or a more complex deal or a large case, you know, that's something maybe in these 6 figures, go ahead and get an attorney. Now I know that I hit mute all. Can anybody unmute themselves right now? Or does nobody just have any questions?
You are able to be unmuted.
Okay, good. All right, well, hell, this is great. It seems like everybody's learning. If we don't have any questions, that's making my job easy. No questions today, huh? Okay. All right, well, if everybody has the documents down pat, you know, the motivation has been here. We got people getting deals, you know, shout out to Matthew and any other individuals that are taking action today. Stanley, you know, moving forward, you got your bank account set up, you got your website, you got your EIN, you got everything. I love that. Okay, we got one question. David said, questions from me. Do I need to have all the documents notarized with the client working in California, Florida, and Nevada? Those are the states you're doing. Okay, so the agreement form, that doesn't have to be notarized. That's just between you and the client. But most of the time, your other documents that you're submitting for your claim will have to be notarized. Most of the time, the counties are gonna want to have, you know, legitimate notarized legal documents. Your agreement form, that's just between you and the client or you and the attorney. Most of the time, the county does not request to see that actual agreement contract. Morgan said, can you explain the proof to send to the claimant? Yeah, well, what Matthew mentioned earlier, how he matched up the parcels that were associated to the individual that passed away, and then the parcel that was on the foreclosure auction list that showed the opening bid, the final sell amount. You know, if there is an overbid, that can be proof. You can send over, you know, deed documents, or sometimes the county has an excess proceeds list or a surplus funds list. You can send that over. You know, if you find any type of cases, court cases associated with the foreclosure that has the name that shows, you know, further information on the property, you can send that over. Yes, you'll screenshot on your laptop. So, you know, if you have a Mac, you can select your screenshot. And then if you have any other type of laptop, you just hit the window G icon, G on the keyboard, and then it'll screenshot. You just want to make sure you do not get your tabs that you have open on your browser in your screenshot. They don't, you know, the client doesn't need to send that. You just want to show them everything from the county. So that's your proof. David said, good to know. Okay. Do I need to have the EIN set up before I receive the checks and start the business? Well, yes, the EIN number is necessary to open a bank account. You have to have a business bank account, and you'll need that EIN. The EIN number is free on the IRS's website. Okay, we got YouTube's really interactive today. Anybody on the Zoom call have any questions? Nobody at all? Okay. Will, do you have any topics maybe you want to discuss with people today? Any advice?
I just wanted to add on to my situation. Man, I was doing this for 3 weeks straight, except for the weekend, making phone calls. This wasn't just a one single day done deal or whatever. And I'm still waiting for the claimant to get back to the agreement form. So I just saying that to say consistency really helps out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So everybody can, you know, understand that if you're out there and it's been maybe 1 or 2 weeks, keep going, keep pushing. Keep pushing. But yeah, Will, did you want to give any advice to anybody?
Yeah, I was gonna, there were a couple of things that came up that I was gonna mention if we have a few minutes. I was gonna first talk about the EIN, and I think, you're 100% right. You want to get the EIN, and it's free and it's quick. You can do it online on the IRS website, I think, and you're going to need that in order to get a business bank account. There's a thing that you can do, and there's a small risk attached to it. But if you were in a situation where you hadn't set up your company, or you hadn't had set up your company but not yet set up the business bank account, and you have a live deal, if you don't have the ability to have that business bank account set up on the day you get the check, and you want to deposit that check, there's a small amount of time that is acceptable when you're in the kind of early incorporation or pre-incorporation stage. And the risk that's attached to that is maybe you get lazy or complacent and you wind up not doing it. So you don't want to put that off. You want to get that incorporation done, but there's a certain amount of time that is acceptable where you're in certain circumstances where you're an individual who's about to form a business corporation. Maybe you don't have all of those I's dotted and T's crossed just yet, but you're in the process of doing it. So what I would say, and these are generally considered pre-incorporation activities, they kind of get pulled in to the incorporation if you incorporate quickly and you maintain the distinction between your personhood and the corporate or company personhood. And that's really the bigger thing. I think it's important to realize it, especially if you haven't, if this is your first time entrepreneur in some sense. Maybe you're used to working for other people and you haven't set up companies before. You need to maintain a distinction between yourself and the company on all fronts, because the real big risk of running a company and intermingling funds, or putting personal assets into the company account or company assets in your personal account, or paying business expenses out of your personal account or personal expenses out of your business account, is that somebody later comes along and wants to make a claim against the company.
They can pierce that.
They can pierce the corporate veil. Exactly. And that's the biggest risk that you have of not maintaining those two things separately.
Now, what's the time frame? Okay, if you do have your LLC set up, but maybe you're in that early stage and you were commingling, if maybe moving forward the next year, everything is clean as a whistle, is there a certain time frame where they can no longer, pierce because of what you did at the beginning was incorrect?
So it's a great question. For all claims, there is some form of statute of limitations. And what you've described, if you're talking about early activity that gets righted pretty quickly, that's going to be considered kind of de minimis and not material, and would not be, it's not easy to pierce the corporate veil. It's not, you have to be really completely reckless and like not even trying. But if you're making a good faith effort, what they say is adhering to corporate formalities, keeping us. I think the best kind of, some people are visual learners or auditory learners. The image that I heard that seemed to stick for a lot of people was when you form a company, you think of that as whenever you're going to act on behalf of the company, put on your gloves, you put on your hat, you want to sign the company's name. You'll sign your name on behalf of the company. So a contract for the company, for me, isn't in the name of William Whitman. It's Whitman LLC. And you always want to make sure that your contracts, if you have a company, are in company name. Now, I'm still William Whitman. I'm still signing the contract, but I'm signing as the owner of Whitman LLC.
Yeah, man, this is gems right here. We even have Kenny in the YouTube chat said, "I'm grateful to hear this." Yeah, this is great. Thank you, Will, for that. That was a gem right there. Even I'm adhering to that, because in the early stage, there is some times where I commingled. So yeah, I mean, starting off, especially when if you're new to surplus funds and maybe you get that check and then it's cashed out and you pay yourself or you pay this person, that person, you start buying things just on your personal card instead of the company's credit card, things like that. So, it definitely transition to doing everything as clean as a whistle, because you do not want to have your LLC pierced. You don't want to have that company entity pierced, because if they go after your personal funds now, oof, that is no bueno.
Well, and it really defeats the entire purpose of setting up the corporation in the first place. The reason you want the corporation primarily is to protect your own personal assets. Maybe there's some confidentiality benefit, but I think it, as everybody probably listening has some experience, if you find a company, you may be able to find the owner of that company. And, there's a reason that every state requires a registered agent for corporations. They need to be able to be served. They need to be able to be sued if they do something wrong and have some responsibility for something.
Okay, awesome. All right, so we have David that said, in my first week, I have a lot of things up and running, building my client list, and I'll be calling soon. I'm just worried about setting up appointments to get documents notarized, very new to me. So when it comes to getting documents notarized, you just communicate with the client on the phone, and you want to figure out how they want to set up the notary. So, a notary can either come meet them in person, they can meet at a local Starbucks, McDonald's, or, they can just go to a FedEx, or they can go to their local bank, and, you can compensate these things. You can pay them on PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. There's so many ways that you can pay and cover those costs. Some people might even do it, out of their own expense. They might have a friend who's a notary, or, they know their local bank teller. They'll get that document notarized. So getting your documents notarized, that shouldn't be anything holding you back from making calls. Definitely make calls. That's something that you can, get over super easy. And when it comes to actually setting up the appointment and finding a notary, all you want to do is look up mobile notary in whatever city that claimant lives in. You want to contact them, tell them what you do, and then tell them the forms that you need notarized. And if you're doing anything that does need their social, most of the time in tax overages and mortgage foreclosures, you don't need their social. But if you are assisting somebody in unclaimed state funds, most of the time you'll need their social. So simply have your notary tell them, okay, we're going to need your signature here, and then we'll need your social right there. Everything, nice and smooth. Don't be hesitant when you ask for the social. Just tell them to put it right there. But that's for state funds. With tax overages and mortgage foreclosures, the only time you'll need a social is if maybe the county requires you to fill out a W-9, like the client has to fill out the W-9, or if for some strange reason they're requiring proof of identification through a social. Right there. Everything, nice and smooth. Don't be hesitant when you ask for the social. I can hear myself. Okay. But that was a good question, David. But yeah, don't let that hold you back. Make calls. Getting a notary set up is simple. All right, Christian said, do you treat the foreclosure property and tax deed properties clients the same? Yes, mortgage foreclosures and the tax deed. Yeah, that's going to be exactly pretty much the same. Kenny said, what is the meaning of piece the corporate vial? Just want a little clarity. I think it mean me. I don't know what you're saying, Kenny, on the end, but you want a little bit more explanation on what it means to have your corporate veil pierced. Yeah, Will, go ahead and break that down for him.
Sure. So the basic idea is when you form a corporation is a separate legal entity. It's a separate legal person from you individually. So the company acts, and the company can get sued, and the company has its own property. And the biggest benefit, the reason that history we formed corporations and companies and LLCs and professional corporations is so that you can separate your own liability from your business's liability. And it's a great benefit to people who start businesses. So if you form a corporation, you have the benefit of that protection. except in certain circumstances, let's say you're committing a fraud, or you're not really a separate business. You commingle funds. You treat the business as though it's your personal piggy bank. You take money out of the business and spend it on personal things, and you don't maybe even have a separate bank account. You really are paying for non-business expenses through the business. You are doing non-business things through the business. You're using the business really as what they refer to legally as an alter ego of yourself. So the corporate veil is the protection that the corporation provides that separates you and your personal liability from the corporation's liability. Piercing the corporate veil is when the court makes a decision and says, based on all of this evidence, based on all of the things that you've done, that you're really not separate from the corporation. You're not too separate. And they, what's called, pierce the corporate veil, and they find you individually, personally liable for mistakes that the company has made or wrongdoing that the company has done. So whereas, I've got clients in court cases where their company is being sued. Sometimes you don't want your company to be sued. You don't want a judgment against your company. But if you get a judgment against your company, it's not the end of the world. If you get a judgment against you personally, it's not the end of the world. But one strategy that some people use is, if you get a judgment against the company and it's enormous, it's greater than the assets of the company's out of business. They can't take your house. They can't take your car. They can't take your personal assets. They can't attach your personal savings account or your retirement account or your possessions, because those aren't business assets. As long as you've maintained the separate entity and distinct personhood of the company and you individually, they can't get to your personal assets. They can only get to the business assets. What you may wind up doing in that situation, putting that company into bankruptcy and folding it up. Maybe you open up a new company someday.
Yeah.
That company, and some people do that as a routine, as a habit. You go and you get into trouble in a company and you bankrupt that company and you start a new company. Some people have 10 different companies going at the same time. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
You don't want to use companies to commit fraud or do bad things. But what you want to do, if you're a legitimate business person and you're trying to do something the right way, you want to keep your business and your personal stuff as separate as possible, so that you don't get that corporate veil pierced. I don't know if that is a good explanation, if that answers the question, if it needs more detail or.
No, that was great. I believe it was great. I believe you had everything. Nakia said, what do you think about setting up a S Corp? I hear it has better tax breaks. I'm in California, taxes are higher here. Yeah, you definitely want to get an S Corp. I'm just speaking from my experience. You can then pay yourself as an employee. So then you can start having more tax deductions. If your income is large, maybe you're doing asset recovery and you're killing it, you're making 6 figures plus, and you want to get your taxable income down, you can then start getting, business expenses. You can buy things under your company, like how I just did with the Porsche truck that I just bought. I put it on my YouTube. That's under my my company because of the weight of the vehicle. That's a $25,000 tax deduction. So when you get things set up, you can start having, better tax breaks. You can also set up a solo 401k. You can then, defer those taxes. So, there's a lot of benefits getting an actual S Corp opposed to just a sole proprietor.
So, and I'd say that there are the benefits of an S corporation and of a corporation as opposed to an LLC or other corporate form really increase as your business scales, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And that, these things are all different in every state, but the general principle is, as your company gets bigger and you have employees and you have greater expenses, you may be better served by moving to an S corporation or a C corporation. One of the benefits of starting with something like an LLC, if you're a single person, no employees, and maybe you're not intending to scale up, is the lower cost and the greater flexibility of starting. That there's a little bit of a trade-off. There are pros and cons of each method, but really the biggest difference from the top level perspective that I see between a corporation and a limited liability company is, for a limited liability company, you're not going to be filing a separate tax return for the company. The income for the limited liability company goes on your personal return on a Schedule C, profit or loss from a business. Whereas I believe with a corporation, you need to file a separate tax return for that corporation, which is another expense.
That right now, yeah. But it's like you said, it depends on how big your business is. So when I first started doing asset recovery, I was an LLC. Now, I have, we're trying to do the whole nation. I have employees that I pay. I now have myself. I have to defer some taxes for my 401k. There's, it all depends on how big your company gets.
And there's no reason that you can't start in one type of formation and change to another type of formation down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I imagine, Eric, that wasn't a very difficult thing or expensive thing for you to do, to have started.
But the thing is, not knowing. A lot of people don't know, and I didn't know for the longest, but I sought out professional help. I got in contact with a good CPA, had great reviews. We discussed everything. He had to understand my business. And then once he grasped that, he gave his recommendations, and, all the recommendations that he gave me, I've been utilizing them to my advantage for sure. There's it's all a game. It comes down to knowing how to play it. It's all a game. Especially with tax breaks and stuff like that.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Stanley.
So, I've been doing this before. I just want to make sure it's okay. So usually when I have my LLC, I have more than one, I use like QuickBooks, and I pay myself to do a payroll service throughout the end of the year. I don't have to worry about paying the taxes. I can keep everything. Is that a good idea, or?
I can't give tax advice. I'm not a CPA. I can't do that. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure I understand. Are you saying you pay yourself through a payroll company? Are there more employees than just you?
And one of my business, yeah. So I use through Bank of America, they have QuickBooks. It's like a payroll service through ADP, and pretty much we just get regular paychecks, through the company. And I was just wondering, would that be that's a good idea to do it that way, or?
I think there's pros and cons of it.
LLC on that, or are you a corporation, S corp?
Well, I switched it. Well, the other one, it's a carpet cleaning business. So I switched. It was an LLC when I first started. So I switched to an S corp because I have employees now. So.
Okay. Yeah, because you can't do payroll if you're just an LLC, right?
I don't know, but I think it may be overcomplicating things to do payroll if you're an LLC.
Yeah, because like you said, you're still filing under your own taxes when you do that.
Yeah, it is possible to have employees in an LLC. So you can have an LLC and then hire people and potentially do payroll for those people. As the owner of the LLC, you could take a salary, but again, there's pros and cons of that, and it may be overcomplicating it for what it's needed. We will get a CPA on here in short term.
That would be great. Yeah, because I don't want to give any type of legal tax advice. Yeah. Okay. This is actually turned into a great call, guys. We have another question from David. So this is going back to the notarization on the documents. So will they be sending the documents to the county themselves since they already notarize it on their end? No, you always want to get your documents back so that you can review it and so that your attorney can review it and make sure everything's in good order to submit to the county. You're not going to have the client submit anything to the county. when the notary is there and he gets those documents, you want to have him mail the originals to you. Then you want to figure out how the county accepts these claims. Do they accept via email, fax? Do they require originals? You know, do you need to send this over to your attorney and then they attach that with their cover letter and then all the other paperwork that they have? You always want to get the originals back. So when you send out the documents to your notary, they get the document signed, and then you want to get them back, get those documents back. Okay, Denise said, can 4 people be on an LLC?
Sure.
Yeah.
An LLC, they're very flexible things, and you can, you know, make decisions about profit sharing and ownership percentages and really decision making. What you want to do when you set up the LLC, though, is have an agreement among the people. If there's more than one, you want to have an agreement among the people who are the separate owners, so you know how to handle situations that are either going to arise or could arise, like buy and sell agreements. If somebody wants to leave, or, you know, somebody commits a crime and you need to get rid of them and, you know, buy them out, or somebody dies. So you decide you want to take on another partner. So these things get handled in what is usually called a company's operating agreement or a limited liability company agreement. And those are things that when you start out, you should have those. There are some forms online. I haven't seen great ones, and but there are a number of issues that you want to deal with at the outset, especially if you're talking about 4 people.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think that answers her question. David also said, oh, I understand we should focus on the county's requirements, but still get all the paperwork from our clients. Yes. Yep, absolutely. Okay. All right, guys. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap things up. That was a great call today. Also, I want to let you guys know that I am running a Black Friday sale. So if you have not purchased the course yet, use the code Black Friday 21 and you'll see a great discount on that. Just go ahead and check it out. For those of you who have already purchased the course and are moving forward, you know, just stay at it. You'll get deals. Trust the process. Believe in yourself. I thank you guys for attending this call. I'll see you tomorrow.